Hey, welcome back here to Town Hall Media's booth. We've got some more media coverage here. I'm Brad Slager from the Headlines column, and we're going to get into some direct media attention here, but on a more local level. I'm in the South Florida area, Fort Lauderdale specifically. Joining me is Tom Lauder, who is, surprisingly enough, writing a conservative news blog in the unconservative county of Broward.
That's right.
How do you do this?
Thanks for having me. Yes, Broward County is the hub of Democrat politics throughout the state of Florida. And I started about 12 years ago because the local newspaper wasn't covering a lot of the local politics and governments that needed to be covered, and they were getting away with murder. So I thought, why not me?
Perfect analysis there, because that's kind of one of the things I like to expose in my column is that it's not just national media bias, but this goes all the way down to the local level. We see it firsthand here in Florida with the way the press treats Ron DeSantis. It is just knee-jerk, reactionary. Everything is just negative regarding him, and about 95% of the time it's inaccurate.
Yeah.
And how do they get away with this? Is because it's Democrat-controlled county.
And it's so disingenuous. It started at some level of hackery in a campaign or some party headquarters, and then miraculously it ends up in the newspapers. And all it takes is one, and then they all now most of them share content now, but you'll see it goes from the Sun Sentinel, the Orlando Sentinel, something in Sarasota, Tallahassee Democrat, Jacksonville, and it just gets regurgitated, even though it may not even be right, or even on the face of it, it's just campaign PR.
Yeah, they don't even have to be close to right. And
no.
Somebody recently had asked me who are the most biased anti-DeSantis outlets. I said it's kind of tough because, like you just alluded to, they're all part of the same network. The Herald is obviously the worst, but Sun Sentinel, Orlando Sentinel, Tampa Bay Times, they all have that same conduit, and they all pretty much have the same message.
Well, yeah, it's anti-DeSantis all the time, and when it's not, they take a few. Like the other day, they went after Rubio. They're like, yeah, Rubio did the right thing, but he's too late in doing it. Oh, okay. Yeah. By whose standard? You're not covering him. So I don't know who's worse. As of late, the Sun Sentinel and the Orlando Sentinel are basically one and the same.
Yeah.
And they both have very liberal editorial boards, which is fine if they, it's hard to imagine that they don't see, past their biases, thinking that just because Republicans might not like it, that they have to like it. And to focus when you're a local paper on Tallahassee, well, the new editorial page editor for the Sun Sentinel is the Steve Bosquet, who lives in Tallahassee. He doesn't live in South Florida. He did back in the 70s when he was a television reporter, but now he's in Tallahassee. He hangs out with the Tallahassee crowd, and he has for years covering the state capitol stuff. So it's like the inside the Beltway syndrome, but in Florida. So it's like, oh yeah, Republicans, they're nuts. Like they let the parental rights bill. Democrats labeled it "Don't Say Gay," and it's fine if a columnist wants to do it. But we're seeing news coverage where it's not even the so-called "Don't Say Gay" or in quotes. It's just like that's what it is.
And it's on the national level. I just wrote it a couple days ago. NBC is doing it. All the major newspapers refer to it as the "Don't Say Gay" bill, when that is not what it's labeled, and it's not what it actually contains.
And I think the Republican sponsors of it made the mistake of not going after that earlier and saying, no, This is what it is. So they're not blameless in this, but they just ran with it to the point where that's what everyone thinks it is, and it's like the real issue, which the Republicans thought was a genuine issue supported by the parents, gets lost. And instead of a discussion about it, it's, again, like we see on the national level, I don't agree it's a conspiracy theory, or you're a nut, you're a madman, and just dismiss you.
Yeah, they basically start from that side. As soon as they rename a bill like that, they've already established their bias into it, and it's amazing to watch it get accepted on the national level when it was incorrect on the local level.
But I think Governor DeSantis, no surprise, gets that. That's why he's got a team that is out there banging away 24/7. Every time they see something, they go after it right away. They confront it with the facts to shut that down. And they've been pretty successful so far, and that's why they get so much hate.
Absolutely.
Christina Pushaw and some of the other folks other agencies, they get all that attacking. You're like, well, why are you attacking a spokesperson? It's because you're effective. And you're doing what they normally do. Is like, the minute there's something else that goes against their narrative, they want to shut it down.
Well, they're also, how dare you?
Yeah.
You know, he works for the people, and so does she, and she's not allowed to talk back to the press somehow as press secretary. It's an amazing thing to behold. Just to cut down even deeper than on a local level, you do a lot of muckraking as far as city governments, commission seats, things of this nature, and what's kind of amazing to watch with Tom's work is not only is he locked in and spot on, he'll hit something and months later will actually come to fruition. You've exposed some corruption in the government. 6 months down the road, those politicians will finally get some legal addressing facing them, and the local papers then suddenly run it without ever attribution.
They used to give me credit, but I just found something I did in the local election a year ago, where a candidate who suddenly, missed progressive, but a year earlier was, and while she was running, it's like Black Lives Matter. A year earlier, it's like, well, Black Lives Matter is like a terrorist organization. I found it on her Facebook page in her name. I wrote it, a legitimate story. Democrats cut her loose. They weren't supporting her. The Sun Sentinel editorial writes about it and says a local blogger was scavenging,
of course,
the Facebook. And I'm like, scavenging? That's called legwork, everybody.
Yeah.
You have a candidate, you figure it out. And I've done it time and time again. And, that's fine. They don't want to give me any credit. They don't like me scooping them. And when I do write a story like the former mayor's daughter with PPP loans scandal.
That was an amazing story.
I caught her 2 months after she did it, and within a year, she's pleading guilty and got sentenced to 20 months in jail. And the Sun Sentinel was silent about it for the longest time. And the thing on the local level, we were talking about shutting it down. They are controlling the bureaucracy, where yesterday I had a spokesperson, public records request, a simple request, who recommended this person get paid by the city. And they string me along every day at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. But yesterday, we have no further comment. And they still never told me who said pay this person. And you see that in city after city. People are figuring out what they do at a national level, stonewalling, controlling the apparatus of the bureaucracy, and that's our money. That's actually your money, not DC taxpayer. That's your local tax dollars here in Florida.
Yeah, and it's so emblematic about what I cover on the national level is taking place on the local level because of that blue nature. I tell people Broward County is basically the Chicago Bears helmet. That's how blue it is. And it's county, city, commission seats, and then you roll in the media. That's why there's no accountability for them getting things wrong or avoiding stories like you talk about as well.
But
something else like that.
I will say, I've been covering Tamarack politics, and I left the meeting last 2 weeks. I have never had so many senior citizen Democrats come up to me and thank me. They're reading my stuff, they're thanking me, even though I'm RedBroward.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they're asking me they're begging for the governor to come down and fix it and help them solve these problems because no one else will. And I'm like, well, maybe you ought to tell the governor that you'll be supportive in November, and then, instead of always attacking him. But they need help, and I think this goes back to, I always said the Trump voters and the Bernie Sanders voters were very close in their ideas. They knew that everybody was getting screwed over by the establishment, the elite, and now people at the local level are recognizing, wait a minute, I've been voting for these Democrats, but they're just as bad as I've been told the Republicans are. They're all stealing my money. No matter what they say, that's my money. They're paying it to their cronies. That's wrong.
It's a gradual dawning, but it's an encouraging one. So just so you understand, we are doing the fight at this local level as well as the national. It's just a real aspect of the journalism Democrat complex that has to take place. So I wanted to bring you on just so we could address that very thing. Appreciate you coming on, Tom, and
Thanks.
We're going to keep it up on the national and the local level.